40 years ago, Old Town Tacoma was a ghost town, but it had cheap real estate, and that is what antique dealers need, and this became Antique Row, and now look at it, wow. There's a lot going on here. We're going to see some of it today. There's an antique mall that started this all. This is Sanford Son. It is a multi-floor shop. This started here in 1984, and Antique Row formed around it. And part of the reason they're still here 40 years later is because they get some really incredible stuff like this fantastic stained glass piece. These stained glass windows were made for the 1909 Alaska Yukon Pacific World's Fair, and they are fantastic, and it's amazing that they are still in existence. These are some very cute French nightstands. I always like that mottled marbling, and I like that they're a similar but not exactly same set. Here's the other window from the 1909 Seattle World's Fair, just incredible. And then below we have a really cool piece here. This is a Raymond Louis design. This place really has a lot of amazing stuff, big stuff, wonderful things that you could use in a large home or perhaps a place like a fancy restaurant or bar. Look at this amazing painting here. I just think this is so cool. This was done sometime around 1900 by Henry Singlewood Bisbing. Just the frame is immense. Look at this bird hotel, not just a bird house. That's really neat, made of tin. This looks like something that would date to about 1920. It's rather spectacular. I haven't seen one like that before. This is really cool, a carousel deer rather than a horse, and this is an antique one. You can tell because it has appropriate aging. You can also see it's not fiberglass. These are pieces of wood that had to all be cut and put in correct order, stat, sealed, painted. It's a really cool piece. I like the big hanging lamps. And this one's especially fun. Lapa light glaze and the orange inserts. There's a nice old stained glass fixture. That's not one of the 70s ones. That one actually has some age, priced at $185, which seems like a good price. These are pretty bead strands with interesting colors that look like they date to the 1950s or early 60s. Someone was asking the other day what thermoset is, and those earrings on the top are a good example. Coro and Listener did a lot of the thermoset, but it's basically a molded plastic. Popular in the early 60s. The Austrian brooch on the upper right has really good color. Weiss, the clear brooch in the middle, is nice. A couple of different Weiss pieces there. And then this fun Fruity Tooty piece made of glass from the 1930s is large. So that's a good price for what it is. The scarves. Vera Newman, of course. Very popular with collectors then and now. The earlier Vera have a little ladybug next to them. After she sold the company, they removed that. So these are going to be second generation Vera. And here is my friend. Oh, I'm so glad. Hello. So many different patterns. I think that's what's a lot of fun about Vera. Okay, here's one with the ladybug. So that's our earlier mark. Yeah, Vera at one point was so popular that she was in JCPenney, and so she really went mainstream for a while, and a lot of people know, and the colors and the styles are just really fun. Here's some cool books. The Art. Hendrik Willem van Loon. My mother had me read a book of his as a child. He was very good at covering subjects really thoroughly in a way that was easy to understand. Here's Van Loon's geography, as a matter of fact, and Van Loon's lives, where he talks about interesting beings with certain historical personages. He managed to put it in a context as if he had actually met the people, even the ones who'd been dead for hundreds of years. Lost, stolen, or strayed, oh my goodness. Someone is up to something. Otterbox was a very popular publication for about 40 years. It was mainly done for children. It was published in Massachusetts, and the graphics are really great, especially on the cover. And then when you open it up, there are just tons of stories, so it lasts for a long time. Here is the exposition from whence those wonderful windows we saw came. Alaska, Yukon, Pacific. There are the three graces in the middle. This was done for Frederick and Nelson, which was the big fancy department store at the time, by Roland Marcellus, who did a lot of the souvenir plates. This is a needle chips lamp, and it's got the red lens. I looked at one of these with a clear lens at an estate recently, and I didn't buy it because it was a little bent, but the ones with the colored lenses are definitely really popular. These lamps are so fun. We used to see them all the time. The two-tiered fiberglass shades, they're just not out there anymore. Everybody grabbed them, and they're all in collections, it seems. Underneath is a cool tile table, and this is one of the California ones from Laguna. They also did these in Mexico. This one's priced at $325. And the book on there is interesting to me because this is showing all sorts of old, early horseless carriages, typical gasoline carriages, automobiles. This is from about 1905. So the Model T has not even been introduced yet. And they're showing how they work. At this point, a whole lot of people are trying to figure out, especially people who are making bicycles, whether they can strap an engine to one. Carriage makers are trying to figure out how to strap an engine to one. So it's a pretty big deal. They show a Winton, which is long gone, the Decauville car, which is long gone. Love this portable rattan table, $185 from about 1950. That would look great in my house. This is a pretty late 19th, early 20th century piece. It's got the iridescence almost like Lutz, but it is not hand blown. So I think it was decorated to look like that at the time. Here's an old piece of slag glass. We see so much of the Indiana slag glass. Notice the difference. This has the color really modeled all through it. It varies a lot. This concentric ring pattern on the bottom means this is an English piece, and I like the holly pattern. This is going to date to about 1890. Oh, I think I have to have this. This is the Red Wing hors d'oeuvre holder. There's the Red Wing mark. This was part of the line in the 1960s. The birds were painted on the rest of the pieces, but the hors d'oeuvre is the bird itself. And yes, this little lamb bank, $12, it does look like lamb chop. This is one of these ones. It might have been a razor bank because it's wide enough to take a safety razor blade, and then you would just throw the thing away when it was full. So we don't see so many of these anymore. That's tempting for $12. This is an interesting form of silhouette because the frame is in silhouette, and then the foil print in the middle is a little different. This is for a garage in Yamhill, Oregon, with a 3-digit phone number from about 1940. Washing machines were such a huge invention when they came out. This is the Boss, and this one was made in Ohio. A lot of them were made in Cincinnati, and this one has patents pending because this is right around just before 1900 or so when they come out. This is priced at $285. You could use it as an interesting table, and it certainly has storage. And it also has the original part that swished everything around. So a really cool looking thing. And if you can think of a good use for it, it could even make a bar. You could do bottle storage in there. These are very cool. Whiskey, rum, and gin. Those are fantastic. You can see it's got the design here that we associate with Canada and England. They are asking $24.85 for the set of 3. They should date to sometime right about 1900 in that redware. $225 on this buried ruby 70s lamp with the original shade. That makes a difference. Pretty cashmere coat. I like the color, and the buttons are really fun because they have rhinestones. This one's priced at $185. Tacoma ephemera. Well, there's one piece here anyway. Look at that fine building. The store that has the best goods and the lowest average prices, Goldberg and Anderson. This would have been made in semi-porcelain, meaning that it's ironstone, in about 1910. What a neat table this is. I don't know if that's a tray that was put on a table at a later time, but it's just gorgeous with the birds in the Art Nouveau pattern. And it says it's a French pub table. Oh yes, look at that wonderful base with the woman at the bottom. Absolutely Art Nouveau French from about 1905. A Fenton bird on top of the nude compote, which looks like a satin glass piece from about 1940. Some other Fenton here as well, including a row of cats. These two, of course, are uranium, and that will glow a little bit because of the cadmium. And there's Kanawa, or Kanwa. The people in Charleston, Virginia, have told me several different pronunciations. William Pearman Sadler in Douglas. I don't know if that's Douglas, Arizona, or if that's somewhere in England, but that's an interesting piece of horse tack for $65. Good price on the coronation coach. That is from 1953 when Queen Elizabeth was taken from the coronation in that carriage. And it's priced at $75. It's got a Morrison Stone London label over what I believe is a Britain's label. So there must be a story to that. Even dust mops used to be in really cool containers. Now we just have cardboard that we throw away. Snowbird dust mop is $35, and the Arrow on the right, which is Australian, is $85. When you put light through crystal glass, it is really beautiful. And I hope people start doing this and appreciating it more. $125 each on the big perfume bottles from about 1940. The one in front here at $65 is Czech from the 30s. And then here's a commercial perfume bottle that's rather old. This is blown glass all the way to the top, the Eau de Cologne from Paris. And that one's priced at $140. That's going to date to about 1870 or 80 with that embossed bottle. Love the ceramic flower frogs. Some were made in the US, some were made in Germany. I think they're all beautiful. The one in front in the blue here is a Carl Romanelli for Met Rocks. They have that one priced at $125. It is a hard one to find. The Bashful Charlotte was a Cambridge piece from the 1930s. Behind it there's a Punch polish mop from England. Punch and Judy were very popular characters as marionettes back in the 1880s. And the Green Nude is another Carl Romanelli priced at $425. Another cool French Art Nouveau piece is Letter Organizer for $95 with the butterflies. This nude, the large blue one, is Czech. Behind it are those wonderful dogs. Also a French Art Deco set with the greyhounds. And then a Schabach Kunst German nude from the 1960s. They were a good producer as well. This is a fun Japanese piece we don't see a lot here. This is Shigaraki ware, a tanuki, and this is a good luck piece. The signature is above the eyebrows. I think you can see that there. Sometimes they're depicted holding a Japanese flag. And that one's priced at $185. Nice grouping of silhouettes here, and above it, some pre-Prohibition pieces. The glass in the middle is from the Lewis and Clark Centennial Fair, which was another World's Fair held in Portland in 1905. The other ones are various shot glasses from local area breweries. Nice that that has the box, the Avon radio, $48 with the box. On top is a Golden State Warriors radio from back in the 70s when they were not a great team. It's $25. I wonder if that's something that maybe is appreciated now that they're arguably the best team in basketball. One thing I have to say is that I have been greeted by 3 people since I've been here. It's really nice that they have service and give people attention in a store. That's how it should be. Great California pillowcase from the Golden Gate Bridge from sometime around 1940, shortly after it opened. And they do have a few things here that are not for sale, but are really amazing. This is an actual Egyptian sarcophagus. As it says, yes, I am real. And they talk about how it was obtained. This article was from 2009. If you're enjoying this video like my friend and I are here, well, please click thumbs up to let people know. Please do subscribe so that you can click the bell to be notified of future videos. And if you are interested in memberships, there are various perks for joining, and you can check those out by looking at the membership link under the dash line of this video. Well, they've sold most of their Weller at 25% off, and I can see why, because this floral piece was only $25 to begin with. This larger floral with the handles they have at approximately $50 with the discount. Here is Old Colony, also known as Open Lace, a very nice 1930s pattern by Anchor Hawking in pink depression glass. A little bit of Pyrex. And then down at the bottom, I've always liked these. These are Happy Christmas, as they say in England. And these are by Johnson Brothers. Look at this beautiful Mexican maxi dress from the 1970s in wonderful condition. The handwork is just amazing on these. They have some Blanco, some Culver, some fun decanters that are figural. More Blanco here. I always like the bottle vases. Moon and Stars. Love the colors of the canisters in Moon and Stars. They're just like candy. I've always been a fan of this color in Empoli glass too, and I think that's a great optic, that herringbone. It just really gives it a lot of eye appeal. This Italian fish pottery vase for $85 I think is interesting. And then down here, these are really fun. These are going to be mainly Japanese, although some will also be Czech. And they are flower frogs and other pieces from the 1930s with all the birds. So vibrant and colorful. And prices as low as $15 on some of these. Cocktail shakers. Always like the windmill, and especially the fish by Hazel Atlas. And there's the Ellie Smith Moon and Stars oil lamp. Now, it doesn't have the right shade, although it's a fun shade. The original shade would have matched the bottom. Letter sent from McNeil Island. That is an island out in Puget Sound that was the state penitentiary for a long time, and no one ever escaped. 2 people tried. It's very cold and the currents are very swift, and they did not get far. This is a pretty good deal on an old roll-top desk. Now, how do we know it's old? Because a lot of these were done in the 70s and even later. Well, first of all, no particle board. Secondly, look at the patina on the escutcheon. The fittings in the drawers. It's marked down to $585. Usually these sell for about $700, which was their original price. You can also see the dovetailing. You're not going to see that on a more modern piece. So this is a pretty good one. And they look horrible to move, but this size still sells because actually the top comes off. So you're moving 3 separate pieces, and then there's a back panel that you put in. So they're actually a lot easier to move, and you can get them in a smaller vehicle than it looks like when you look at them at first glance. And there's a lot of utility. You've got drawers, you've got fittings, you've got a big area. You could put a laptop or, I suppose, even a monitor computer on. And if a roll top is too big, well, then a cylinder desk might be more up your alley because these are nice and small. These could go at an entryway. There's your cylinder top. This was an American form done in the 1870s and 80s. Again, you see the wooden escutcheon, so that's your clue as to age. Design Barone. It's a really neat airbrush style print of the exotic birds from about 1950, and it's priced at $285. And there is the question, heirlooms or IKEA? This mahogany piece is definitely not an IKEA piece. This is from about 1890 or 1900. It is quite a showpiece. If you were a big collector of fancy Victorian things, this would be perfect as a big statement piece on a wall. They have a slot machine for $475, very similar to the one I have, priced at a very similar price in Seattle. And then a couple of the small versions. These are fun. A lot of people give these as gifts around the holidays. This is neat because this is a fare box from a taxi from sometime around 1950. They have 85 on that. I don't think that's a bad price for something like this. 3 pieces of weeping gold, 24 karat. But of course it's just paint, so it's not like it has gold value. That's why they're only $25 a piece, but it's a great look. And now that people are really into gold accessories again, it seems like a timely thing to collect. A lot of these were decorated by companies in Ohio, and they didn't take credit for their work. They bought the blanks from other makers. This big tureen here seems very inexpensive. Only $26. This appears to all be hand-painted. It does have one small glaze chip there. I believe this piece is going to prove to be Italian. It does have a hairline crack. That explains a little more of the cheap price, but it is actually French rather than Italian. A pretty piece from the early 1900s. This is nice, the bowl with the birds inside. This is a transferware piece from Germany. It's going to date to sometime right about 1900. $25 seems like a nice price. It really seems like a good time to be buying these types of porcelains if you're interested in them, because the prices are low and the quality is still very good. This one's Rostein out of Germany. Now this is something different for an MCM tile table. This is made in Belgium, and the colors are absolutely 1960s or 70s. A nice long size too for a big room at the time. This one is priced at $3.95. This turn of the century oak. This is an early recliner after the Morris chairs because this mechanism is actually built into the arm rather than being a series of pegs in the back that you would lower. So this is sometime around 1900. And this is sold. The asking price was $5.45. Even before they had cylinder disc players, there were roller organs, which were a similar idea. Each one of these is a different piece of music that would play for a few minutes if you had the right machine for it. These were done in the 1880s and 90s. Each one of these little metal projections would pluck a metal piece that would ring like a bell, and that's how you got your music. If we see the roller organ somewhere for sale here, I'll show you. Perry Como, a little bit older than most of the vinyl that I see here. These are all signed Contumus G, and they are various Native American and mostly Alaskan natives. These look like they were painted sometime probably in the 1950s or 60s, judging by the framing. It has an older look, very much like the early 1900s sepia tone photographs, but they were done at a little later time. They're very nice though, and they're asking $165 a piece. There's a lot of catacombs in here, so we're going to look around and see what we can find. I have not been in here in many years, so this is a real treat for me to get to come back and show you. Nice little walnut piece with those drop holes and that shaping on the top drawer and this wooden keyhole. You're looking at something around 1880 American, priced at $3.35. This is camphor wood. This is going to be from Hong Kong sometime probably around 1950, looking at the squarish shape of it with all of the deep carving, and that one's priced at $4.45. The lamps here are by the Aladdin Lamp Company, and two of them have the correct finials, and they have a base that looks a lot like the peach luster glass that was made by Pyrex around 1960, but these are a little bit earlier than that. And there are various shops within here. There's about 30 dealers, as well as the furniture area, and so we're going to see a lot of variety. Everything from costume jewelry, ooh, love those glasses, to the dog glasses holder. This is the one we see the most often. There are some character ones that are harder to find. A lot of these were done in home studios, including this one. It's got an R Nice mold mark on the bottom. Looking to see if these are vintage. I think they have some age. Pretty piece of Murano here in a very deep red color. We don't really see red as often. Red was more expensive to make, and so they made less of it. $30 seems like a pretty good price for that piece. Classic Indiana glass hen-on nest in a yellowish color rather than an amber, $35. So when I was in this shop earlier, I knew when my friend got here, she'd make a beeline to it, and just guess where I found her. Ta-da! Okay, love the hat.
Thank you.
The earrings are great, and
That up.
that is really cool.
It's really different.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I've been finding some buys like nuts and some super cute stuff. And now, of course, we're packing it away, but besides the hat, this was really neat. It's super
Those are
pretty.
really
And
cool.
she found matching earrings.
Oh, wow.
For Ren. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, those are sharp. I love that. It's like tortoiseshell.
So I wanted your opinion about a few things. Anyway,
Okay.
having a fall.
Oh, I'm glad.
I don't know about these. What you think?
They look good on you. Let me see how they lay. I mean, the ones you're holding, of course. You got that in Florence, right? The one you're holding?
Yeah, this I walked in there.
Yeah.
But,
Oh,
wait, look at these. What's your name? I go Luann.
Luann.
Okay.
Cool.
Check this out for the calendar.
Oh my gosh.
The other ones.
Oh, those are
Not bad.
great with that
I
hat.
think I should
Yeah, they rock with that hat.
maybe, whoops. And I don't know why I have the glasses and pony on as well. But maybe, and I must say, the prices are amazing.
Yeah, I thought so too. That's why I knew you'd find this. Yeah, really good stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, there are 3 floors of this, so we're going to go down there, but first we'll take a look at this. This is framed sheet music. And I'm not sure who the customer for this was, but there was definitely a real effort during World War I to start recognizing the contribution to the military of black people, even at the same time that the government was segregating the civil service. So a lot of mixed messages in that time. $55 on this piece, and I have to say this is quite schmaltzy. I do like it. The jeweling is really neat. This looks like something that was done. There is a copyright, but not a maker attribution. I would say this was probably done around 1960. We start to see a lot of depictions of Africans in home decor around that time. Okay, we're coming into the second level. I really like this little bamboo table. The shape is great. The bamboo is great. This looks like something I would have in my house. It's priced at $265. It certainly has echoes of Paul Frankel, but I think this might be something that was made by a Florida company. Now, some of these shops are owner-run, and they are not all open every day. This whole complex is open Wednesday through Sunday, usually. I like the screen with the big old movie posters on it. There is a very cool Victorian baby carriage with the parasol, and full of dolls. Wicker pieces like this were made by Haywood Wakefield and other companies long before they got into modernism. And they were well upholstered. This was for a baby who was from a rather pampered household. Now, this is not an antique store, but this one is definitely very different. And there are some vintage things in it, including these Kenneth Robeson horror novels at $5 each. This is definitely a place that a lot of young people like to hang out because it has these oddities and things that are rather macabre. And look at this interesting they've done with this 1910s picture, somebody we don't know, and they have added also vintage taxidermy. I have to say this is creepily interesting. Do you feel like this sometimes? I do, especially when it comes to tech. But this is a fun area of collecting. These are Philippine, and they're from the 1960s and 70s, where everything is made out of shell. This is about the time they were making a lot of Capiz shell lamps as well. I had not seen the fish before. He's $25. More things from Salty Dog, which is the fun oddity shop we were just in. All right, we're headed down to another level. I feel like we missed a shop on that level though, and I think that's easy to do, so we might have to go back. This quite impressive piece is from continental Europe. I'm thinking probably Germany. It is true antique. You can tell looking at this that a lot of this was hand hammered and hand forged. It's not identical on both sides, so it's not machined. That means we're looking at something made probably in the early 1800s or possibly even before. All hand carved. Interesting detail. They are asking $37.75 for this, but I can't say I've ever seen another one quite like it with the cabinet on top and the shelving underneath. That could be a really interesting store display. This might be the most interesting carom board I've ever seen. It has the flags of various nations, and that's everything from Korea, which at that time we were spelling with a C, to Tunis, which is Tunisia, to Spain, Samoa, Japan, Liberia. I would love to know what this game was originally. There's a man in the middle. Obviously, there's paths you take. And then there's all sorts of flora and fauna depicted on the outside. I would say from the way these graphics are done that this dates to sometime right around 1910. And it is priced at $75. I could see that being turned into a table with a glass top and being a really interesting thing to have in a game room. A rolling chest of drawers. This is something that would have been used in an office sometime around 1890. Very industrial looking, maybe a hardware store at that. And it says, go through here, so I will. This stuff is not on reorder, it's one of a kind. I do tell people that. I've made the same mistake, passed something and thought, well, I'll come back and see if it's still here, and then it wasn't. And then I never own one. I would love to own this interesting canoe. It has had a lot of bandaging with copper plates over the years. This looks like something that was dug out of a big tree originally, and it's full of all sorts of old books. Ah, interesting. Possibly used by Sacagawea to transport Lewis and Clark up the Chehalis River. Well, there's only one problem. Lewis and Clark didn't go to the Chehalis River. It is really cool to see not one but two cedar dugout canoes from the Native Americans in this area. Ah, remember when you had to pay a dime to go to the toilet? That was a pretty horrible situation if you didn't have change. These are not particularly sexy ones, but I've had luck selling hardware displays like this before, if they're a little more interesting. These are a little more recent than some. These look like 1990s vintage. But if you get ones back from the 70s, especially if they have a lot of things that are stylish in some way, well, that can be pretty good. This is the $5 your choice section. And these are kind of fun. These are the ringneck pheasant, and these were done by Fire King. It's a line not everybody has seen. They did juice glasses, they did plates with the ruffled grouse, various wild birds around 1960. This is something of local interest. This is the old Boeing label up until about 1982, and then they changed to the modern one. So this is right near the end of the totemic looking Boeing. This was some sort of an award for some guy who worked in the fabrication division. And I have to say, for $5, I probably ought to get that. I don't know if Zeno has seen these, but these are vacuum cleaners, early models, Lakeside vacuum cleaner from the foundry in Chicago. And here is an old article from about 10 years ago about a guy who collected 500 vacuums. I don't know if I should show this to Zeno or not. And before vacuums, well, we had floor sweepers. The Bissell Superba. This is from about 1900, and the Domestic from about the same time. They're asking $75 each on those. Next to it are a bunch of really cool 1930s architectural glass pieces. It'd be really fun to make a surround out of these. It looks like it's probably for parts or repair, but this 1940s era outboard motor is only $75. And there are some people who just like to display them. That's a pretty good price. Some interesting funky art here. Vertical Universe, number 15, AW. I wonder who the artist is. It is really interesting. When you look at circuit boards, it actually does look like an aerial view of flying over some industrial compound. And this one is sold. I've never seen somebody repaint and revise one of these 1930s English cabinets before. Impressive looking cat on the middle. This might be Homeco. No, Sirocco. Okay, I knew it was one of those. 1983. The Seagulls. That Neo Deco when it was first starting to come about. Do you remember Susie Rainbow? I remember seeing these when I was a kid. These were by Monty, who signed things Monty. This is from 1973. And that's Willie Hope. These came out during the popularity of the DeGrazia prints and were a similar style in a way. This is part of what they sell here at Artichoke. It's a style right out of the 80s that is starting to make a comeback. And then from the 60s, we have this interesting coffee table with a cribbage board built in. Somebody made this at home. More smalls in here, a whole shelf of toys, including a Cabbage Patch doll. $8 on another piece that's a Sirocco style. These were in a lot of kids' rooms in the 70s. Oh yes, Louisville Stoneware for a long time under the John Taylor line has done special orders where you could have the name of a particular person put on. So these were for Bill. Very cute. They're asking $29 for that 3-piece set. Pinch-sided pitcher. This looks like a 1960s piece marked Blanco, but I don't believe they did that piece. It is the era, but the thick handle makes me think that it's one of the smaller companies in West Virginia. I am a fan and collector of these. These are Hazel Atlas Dots glassware, and they did these in the early 60s. This shape I don't see very often. Usually you see the ones that are shaped like the Mercury space capsule rather than the rounded ones. They're asking $24 for the set. Here's a line of treasure craft from the late 80s. And when I talked to the son of the founder, he said that he and his company designed some pieces like this, Paradise as they called this line. These were really popular colors at the time. And the geometry and the Southwest style were really fun. And he said, honestly, some of them we just designed because we wanted to have a party and show them off. Starting to see these big woven baskets from Mexico and other places selling. They were popular in the 60s and 70s. They're asking $38 for the one with the big pattern. This is a fun Hager piece from the 1980s. They've got $120 on it. I don't see this one as often. It is the woman with the child in her lap. And I love the legs. These are from about 1980. They are Fissler, and I'm finding there's a good market now for these really fun decorated cookware pieces, especially if they're made of stainless or some good material that still cleans up. Around the same time, you could order this canister, sending in box lids from This Quick. Little Fenton bowl here is fun. They've marked it down to $30. That's a fair price for the cranberry opalescent. And here is Blue Danube. They've got a bunch of the cups and saucers. This came out in the early 50s and was made into the late 1980s at least. It is rather collectible. I've sold a lot of it because it's been out recently enough that a lot of people are still adding pieces to collections. And then there's the Blue Onion pattern. These are the Japanese version. They're rather lightweight, but they're great shapes. And they have the set of 4 canisters priced at $64, which is actually a pretty good deal considering they're in really good condition. Lots of vintage scarves, vintage fashion. We are definitely seeing a return of popularity of these. I think because they're sparkly, they're fun, and they're also pretty comfortable as far as they're not tight shapes. They were made for an older clientele when they were new. So they're not constrictive in a way that a lot of fashion clothing is. I like this era of sequins. This is something from, I would say, probably the 1960s or 70s. Looking at that zipper, they're asking $55 on that. These Betsy Johnson shoes, wow. Betsy Johnson was having so much fun back when she was the trendsetter in styles, and these just look like fun. Maybe not fun to wear, but fun looking for sure. And they're asking $48 for that pair. 1980s mirrors with the etching. Those are definitely making a comeback. A 1950s piece of furniture. That's rather likable and obviously holds a lot, including all your barware. This is a cute treasure chest here. Let's see if we can tell anything about the age. It looks like it was painted maybe at a slightly later time, but it definitely has some age. I like the velvet lining. The headdress on the chieftains that are the attachments are neat. Let's look at the bottom here. This seems like something that might have been done in the 1920s or 30s, possibly in Japan. They're asking $68, $275 on this set of Thai brass. We're definitely seeing people interested in this again because brass and gold are popular colors now. It has the elephants. Okay, and then down the grand staircase is this level. And they got some really great signs. The French industrial photo sign is priced at $475. This is a very handsome French. Now this we would call an armoire because it is French. It is a wardrobe if it's English, it's an armoire if it's French. And look at that amazing carved crest with the grapes. The panel doors are very nice. They've got $2,300 on this. Old Chateau Brandy, another good sign. This looks like it was from the top of a display at one time. And, no price on that. Well, I may just ask. This wheel is incredible. Big old thing from a very large wagon, and it must have been something that was hauling a ton of weight because they felt it necessary to use all of these handmade metal attachments and rivet it together. This is priced at $685. This would be a pretty incredible thing to turn into a table or perhaps a chandelier. And then there's this workbench. I've always liked these for the style. They sat low because of their use. You see all the places they could keep their tools. This one is priced at $9.75. It looks like it's all handmade. Here's another of those Belgian tables. I love the crabs and the lobster. That is really fun. And this one actually has some sort of a maker's initial, Roki. The tulip hook rug is really cute. There is a lot of interest in hooked rugs now that were made in the 1920s and 30s. Great sign here. Happy Home brand Yellow Free Peaches. That's going to date to about 1920. And this one is probably 1930s out of an old grocery store. If you have an old house, not a lot of room, and you're fighting over the sink, well, here's a double sink that doesn't actually take that much room. This is from about 1910. It's porcelain enamel over cast iron. You don't really see a lot that are this shape. These were from barber shops originally. And this one is priced at $17.50. This is priced at $2,900, but it is a very old blanket chest. You can see a little bit of old green paint. You can tell the age because this is obviously hand hammered. All of the carving was done by hand. It's not machined. You can tell because it's not exactly the same shape and size of each detail as you go along. My thought is that this is probably English oak from the design. And it might date back as far as the late 1600s, early 1700s. Painted country chairs in this country are generally referred to as Hitchcock chairs. These are a little bit more folksy than the Hitchcock designs that we usually see. They're definitely 19th century, and somebody just wanted to fancy up the dining room a little bit. I'm not sure what the price on these is, but it is a really fun set. And if you were doing a house with primitives, these might be the chairs to have by your dining table. A brass crib or child's bed from about 1900. And there's a little frame to hang a curtain, probably to keep mosquitoes and things away from the child during the summer months. I haven't really seen this size and shape before. It's an interesting form. They have it priced at $4.85. It could be a pet bed for your very spoiled large pooch. I really like this. This is a Gothic or neo-Gothic design in walnut, and it is a surround. It looks like a place that you would stand in a church if you were giving part of the sermon. And then the piece inside of it is quite fascinating too, with all of this detail. It looks like a steeple from a church. And they have a whole library with a library ladder. The ladders are good. They sell for, gosh, $300 and $400 each now. This is quite extensive, and there are all sorts of books, things that are more contemporary as well as older tomes. Private Duty by Faith Baldwin, The King's Jackal, the book about essential oils. So they're not in any particular order, but if you've wanted a place to come hang out and browse on a rainy day, Wilson Campaigns for Progressivism and Peace. And then he immediately took us into World War I. And here's a controversial title, An Unsuitable Job for a Woman. Cordelia Pride apparently took over her husband's detective agency after he died. This is from 1972. I am not sure what this building was originally, but look at this fun staircase that they've gotten, which I suspect they brought from somewhere else. Behind the barber chair and the dentist chair, which we'll look at in a minute, are these really fun painted pieces of bedroom furniture. I really like this set. I'm not always a big fan of painted furniture, but I think this was done a long time ago on an American walnut set. And they've inlaid it with older tiles. I suspect that this revision was done sometime in the early 1900s. And I would say, frankly, that this repurposing and repainting has stood the age of time a lot better than a lot of these white things with inappropriately scraped edges that people are doing will do. You're asking $3,800 for the set. And then in this wonderful pink color, we have these pieces. This one looks like it's for the dentist because it's got the big headrest that adjusts, and this one probably for the barber. I would imagine these are pricing around $1,000 a piece. That's what I got for the last one I had. Another church piece, this baptismal font, and this is sold. Look at the beautiful green marble. And they've left the price on, so $14.75. $5.85 on the barrister's bookcase from about 1910. This one's a Globe Warnke. There's the label in the back. $5.85 with the top shelf having the leaded glass is really a pretty good price on this piece. I would have expected, honestly, that it might be $100 north of that. This is an interesting table, carved European with the drops, and it has this interesting transfer of boats in various cartouches. It needs to be put back together. It's split a little bit with age, but with the minor restoration, this would be a beautiful piece from about 1890. Okay, now that's fun. This looks like something from a 1960s or 70s Mexican restaurant. I've noticed they have a big selection of models. I haven't seen prices on these. A lot of airplane models. These are pretty popular. The Scud, we found out about the Scuds in the first Gulf War. I had a friend who collected these when we were kids, and he was always interested in the German and Russian pieces as well. A lot of these are Tamiya, which was a Japanese company that made very good realistic models. Well, I've got to go find my friend, but in the meantime, my stand-in friend and I would like to thank you for watching the video. We hope you had fun like we did, and I'll tell you, Sanford Son is a fun, interesting place if you're in the Tacoma, Washington area. It is worth checking out. We will come back sometime on a weekend when more of the antique row shops around it are open, because there's a ton of other things to see here.
If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.